Good evening and warm welcome to this 125th WiseViews Leadership Conversation. I hope we are audible and I hope we continue to make it interesting to you. All the distinguished members who have joined around the screen, thank you so much. You all please join me in welcoming Dr. K. Rama Subramaniam. Welcome, sir. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
We are quite fortunate that we could get you. We requested you to speak in our leadership conversations and you have readily agreed. I want to thank you. I want to thank Mr. Pattabhiram for providing this connect. He's also joined along with some very, very interesting chartered accountants and of course various other leaders from different walks of life have already joined. So once again, a warm welcome to all of you. We will now begin this session. I will make a short introduction and then we will begin this very, very interesting topic on cyber criminals, why they stay ahead of us all the time. Let's understand that. First, allow me to share my screen. WiseViews Leadership Conversations, as I mentioned, every Friday we hold these at 6:30 p.m. And this is the 125th session. It's a milestone in itself. We are very, very thankful to the leader who has joined us this evening, Dr. Rama Subramaniam. He is talking on why are cyber criminals a step ahead of us most times. After this intro, we will have opening remarks by the leader for about 20 minutes and followed by 40 minutes of Q&A. It's my pleasure and a privilege to introduce Dr. Rama Subramaniam. He is the Director and CEO of Valiant Technologies Group. He is former chairman of the Board of Trustees of Center of Excellence in Digital Forensics India and served as global chair for the 5 consecutive terms at International Institute of Certified Forensic Investigation Professionals in USA. He served for 3 terms as India's country representative at the International Federation for Information Processing, IFIP TC11. He served earlier as global chair of E&A committee of the GAISP, Generally Accepted Information Security Principles Initiative in the US. He served as adjunct professor at the University of Madras and also at the University of Dubai, teaching a master's program at both these universities. He has delivered over 70 workshops for CISSP aspirants in 14 countries across 22 locations. He is founder president of first Indian chapter of ISC2, served as vice president of IIA in Zambia and as vice president of IIA Chennai chapter as well. He had also served earlier on the boards of ICFAI chapters in Chennai, Bangalore, and Dubai. He has a multidisciplinary doctorate in the area of cyber criminology from the University of Madras, a master's degree with distinction in technology management from University of Lincoln, UK, and a master's degree in law with honors from the University of Salford, UK. He holds FCA, CISSP, CISA, CISM, CDPSC credentials and honorary fellowships, FISC and FCFIP. This is a very, very interesting and most relevant profile for the burning topic like what these cyber criminals are out to do onto us. We as individuals and we as organizations, as consumers, we will be dealing with these issues on a day-to-day basis, and therefore this is the most essential topic that we are touching upon today. Thank you very much, sir, for agreeing to speak with us. I will take one more moment to introduce my esteemed colleague, Professor Prasad. He is the Director of Academic Wing. Today he is appearing from Shimla, and I'm sure the network is going to be as active as always with the help of the dongle. So Professor R. Prasad brings with himself 3 decades of rich experience as an entrepreneur in the initial stages and subsequently as corporate leader and now as an academic. He holds BTech from IIT Bombay and MBA from IIM Kolkata, and he presented several papers in conferences, edited various books, and also published articles in various journals. Thank you very much, Professor Prasad. I'll now stop sharing the screen, and we are all set to hear from Dr. Rama Subramaniam. Thank you, sir, and over to you. We are eagerly waiting to learn from you on this quintessential topic.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhakar Rao. It's my privilege too to be here this evening Can you quickly confirm I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. On this very interesting topic, there are two caveats before I start the presentation. Caveat number one, I might run over by 2 minutes beyond the 20 minutes time. Caveat number two, in case my internet cogs off, I have a backup internet to connect to, but that will take a maximum of 2 minutes. So you have to please bear with me in those cases. Subject to that, let me share my screen and start the presentation. All right. So this is our topic. We're going to look at why are cyber criminals a step ahead of us in almost every case we know of. There have been a few instances where we have been ahead of them, but they are very, very rare cases. But before I go further to answer the question, there are two clarifications we need. First of all, what is the cybercrime all about? What animal is it? Second, when do we say the criminal is ahead of us? What do we measure? How do we say that? So let's spend 2 minutes on each of them, and then we'll go on to reasons for that happening. What cybercrime? There are multiple definitions found in legislations and regulations. And I recently found in the Journal of Economic Criminology a taxonomy of 22 academically rigorous definitions. That itself is a big challenge to us, but what we will do the next 20 minutes, I'll adopt the definition given by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, which says it's an act that violates law. First of all, it has to be a crime. I mean, normal thing that doesn't violate the law doesn't come here, which is perpetrated using information and communication technology to either target networks, systems, data, websites, and/or technology, or facilitate the committing of the crime. So it's a very broad definition. This is what most of us use, both in research and in practice. And this is what many law enforcement and judicial users across the globe. So we'll stick to this definition. Then you come to the most important point. When and why do we say the cyber criminals are ahead of us? But to understand that, let me take you through the crime management process in a nutshell. The first thing that happens is crime occurs. Let's not worry what the crime is. It is true for all kinds of crimes. The next step is the crime gets detected mostly by the victim. This is very important for us. Once the victim knows he or she is victimized, the obvious next step is to report and get the law enforcement involved. This happens in almost all the crimes. The law enforcement comes in, does what they want to do, and then they go to the next level of prosecution. That in many cases leads to justice dispensation. So this is normal, whether you're a common law country, civil law country, whatever it is, this happens. But what is unique about cybercrime is this portion, detection with the victim, doesn't happen often. Because unfortunately, in typical cybercrime cases, the victim often doesn't know that he or she is a victim. Let me give two examples to understand this. Let's take that one of us worked very hard and got hold of a new formula that I want to patent for a new chemical compound, whatever it is. I done the work, saved everything, and said that the puja holidays go over. I'll come back on next Wednesday, file the patent application. I come back post puja holidays, pick up the patent application, file it, give it to the local office of the controller of intellectual property, and Pat comes to reply next week saying, sorry, this has been filed last week, you're a bit too late. I start wondering what happened, because my patent data is there, right on my laptop. I took a copy of it, gave the controller, he says somebody has filed it. What probably happened, and in many cases it does happen this way, is somebody walked into my system, took a copy of it, and did whatever they wanted to do. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, that in the case of a typical asset, you know that you're victimized because the asset does not exist where it was stored earlier. For example, a car park has a number of cars. One car is stolen. How does the owner know he is victimized? He comes there, the car is not there. So he understands, my car is not there. therefore something has gone wrong. But a typical electronic environment, the information that is of tremendous value gets stored somewhere and somebody takes it away. What does he do? He takes a copy away, which means the original remains where it was. And it is not our practice every day morning to open the laptop, look at all the files, find forensic trail, and ask the question, did anybody take a copy of it? It is possible to do so. It is very possible, technologically feasible, but that's not the practice. I'm sure none of you open the laptop in the morning, look at file attributes, compare last night, and then say, let me work. So for a very, very long time, you may not know you've fallen victim to a cyber criminal. This is the first issue we have to. That is because the social legal response system we have developed over the long period of years hinges on the victim calling for help. The victim doesn't ask for help, help doesn't come. It is not as if the policeman walks to your house every day morning and asks you, was there a theft yesterday? Can I help you in any way? No, it doesn't happen. You take the initiative. When you take the initiative, it happens only because you know you have been stolen. You know you've been victimized, which process does not exist in a majority of cybercrime cases. Therefore, the victim surpasses all this, goes scot-free, makes his money, destroys evidence, and that's where it is. So the first issue we face is the victim doesn't know is the victim. Therefore, the due process of law gets normally derailed. Let's look at some other factors. Because you don't know you're a victim, you don't report it. That's one part of it. So there are two genres of people. Genre one are people who don't know they're victims, therefore don't report. But more interestingly, there is a second genre of people who know they're victimized in cybercrime, but cannot report it outside for a number of reasons. Reason number one, they fear reporting will result in somebody accusing them of not being careful. And that can lead to reputational damage. Corporations particularly do not want to go and tell the whole world they have been attacked by a ransomware. Second, the very strange phenomenon happening in the world. The syndrome is cyber crimes will happen only once. They think it is something like a virus infection because of which you have developed antibodies. Therefore, nothing will happen. This is a very unfortunate level, but cyber crimes do get repeated. There are a lot of people who say it won't happen to me. Third, reporting doesn't help is a belief. In fact, many people tell me it's an irritant because they strongly believe, with utmost respect to law enforcement, many victims we have spoken to as part of research have told us we have no faith that existing law enforcement capability can help us. So why are we going and wasting our time there? So there are a number of such reasons why the crimes don't get reported. Therefore, the victims suffer, the criminal is happy, he goes on to do the next crime. Very recently, in fact, 4 days ago, we had this news saying that Reserve Bank of India is fining Paytm payments back for not reporting cybercrime on time. They were fined 5.39 crores. This is not just here, it's a global phenomenon. And you'll find from the World Economic Forum 2020 Cyber Risk Report that the prosecution rate for cybercrime in the United States is 0.5%. The general ratio of crime reported to prosecution is 1 to 10. So if it is 0.5%, it is only 5% of the total cyber crimes are reported in the United States. The DOJ adds weight to that by saying, in their opinion, only 1 in 8 cyber crimes have been ever reported. We don't have data for other jurisdictions, so let us skip and go further. Let's look at what is happening in India. The most authentic data on crimes in India comes from a document called Crime in India. It comes 2 years late because of the enormous work to be done on that. We have 2021 report with us now, which talks of two numbers: 74,229 cyber crimes reported, not acted upon in the earlier year, pending action, plus reported in 2021, 52,974, and the 2-year total is 1,27,203. Please read this number, gentlemen, ladies. In contrast to the total internet users in India is 692 million. With 692 million potential connection to the internet, doing transactions, even if you discount 50% of it, the amount of reported cyber infraction is insignificantly, aggressively low. And this is one more area to worry about because India is following the same trend as globally in not reporting cybercrimes. All right, let's go further into the next part of it. Will recognizing cybercrime and reporting it solve the problem? Not necessarily. This is only one part of the issue. Let's look at other parts of the issue. The next one you're worried about is the disconnect in the cybercrime ecosystem. Let's look at what are those disconnects and how do we sort it out. First, when you want to sort out a cybercrime matter, the technical expert walks in because it's technology. He talks his language. He has IP addresses. He says IP packets went around. The IP packet had a header. The header had 6 IP flags. Third flag is on. That's his language. Then you have another stakeholder here, the law enforcement. Now he doesn't understand the head or tail of what the technical expert talked about. He talks his own language. He says, which section of the IT Act should I prosecute under? And unfortunately, in India and in many other countries, because the law enforcement is not able to find an appropriate provision under the special law on information technology to prosecute a criminal, they move on to using common law, which is the Indian Penal Code or equivalent of that. So you'll find cases where a cybercrime that should be prosecuted under a special law gets dealt with under a common law. This is one other disconnect. Third disconnect is when you get the public prosecutor, the defense attorney coming in, and they try to mingle what the tech expert told, what the law enforcement said, and what is their perception. And they present a very, very different angle of this to the learned judge who is in a deep problem because of this multiple languages being spoken when you try to sort out a typical cybercrime. Let me give you one instance of this. A few years ago, Lord Chancellor of the Exchequer, the British Parliament, announced that he would like to have a review of the British criminal justice dispensation. And he appointed a committee under the leadership of Lord Justice Robin Auld. Lord Justice Auld gave an elaborate report in which he talked about technology crimes, his language for cyber crimes, and he made a very pertinent observation saying, when judiciary looks at a technology crime, it is mandated that a lay member, a non-judge, or a technical expert will sit on the bench alongside the judicial member. But in his own wisdom, the British Parliament decided not to implement it, but that shows how well we have a shortage in understanding the language of these 4 different stakeholders. That's the advantage of the cyber criminal because he knows in many, many cases, he will never ever get prosecuted. There are a few other areas. What is the value of data being infringed? In many common law jurisdictions, including India, penalty prosecution, and as given by the sentencing guidelines where they exist, like United States and UK, value of loss is an important contributor towards punishment. So what value will you assign to it? We have no answers for this question. Some jurisdictions rate sentence value involved. For example, one of the American state laws say, if the value lost is $5,000 or above, there shall be mandatory jail term. So every lawyer's dream is to prove to the court the value lost is $4,950 and escape jail term. So you have issues like that where clarity is yet to emerge on this area. There are petitions that have been sort of ab initio voided because the value has become an issue there. We have yet another area to worry about, which is a very important area. I'm very interested in this area. Shaming. Shaming has been a deterrent for a very, very long time in the crime management scenario. For example, a person commits a heinous crime of murder, goes to jail and comes back. The society shuns him. The society doesn't respect him. But in the case of a cyber criminal, very, very interestingly, and my personal view, unfortunately, society honors him, treats him with great respect. So the impact of shining, the impact of shaming on the cyber criminal to stop committing crimes doesn't work. A good example is Kevin Metnick, the first person to spend a long term in prison for cybercrime. He has written about 12 books, most popular being The Art of Intrusion. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. We don't have much to discuss and interview him. When he writes the book like this, it gets sold like hotcake. More interestingly, he charges $100 for every autograph. And there are many, many people in the world who say, I want the book autographed. He's not shamed, he's honored. So one more control point we had in society, namely shaming, doesn't work in the case of typical cyber criminals. We have yet another issue, it's called jurisdictional issue, with probably the last of the issues we're going to talk about. Which jurisdiction applies to a typical cybercrime case? Because they're transnational. If an Indian national, let's say, goes to Malaysia, walks into a cyber cafe in Kuala Lumpur, gets hold of a database of an Australian company hosted in the United States, which jurisdiction will you prosecute him under? This is a big debate going on among various experts in the world. So INCITRAL came in, United Nations Conference on International Trade Laws. INCITRAL came in and said, we have a solution for this. Don't worry. Whichever jurisdiction the criminal is apprehended, that law will apply to the person. Excellent solution. But what has happened? Today, the cyber criminal, before committing a crime, asks the question, which country has the best jails in the world? Because he knows he can go there, get arrested, and enjoy the jail term. In terms of convenience of handling a jail term, in terms of comfort level to the prisoners, Scandinavian prisons are best. Worst are African prisons, particularly Western Central Africa. So we have today got a concept, a very unfortunate concept called jurisdictional arbitrage, where the criminal asks the question, where do you want to be imprisoned? He goes there and gets arrested so that he can escape the fury of being in the jail in an unacceptable location. So the whole environment, the society, the legal system, the technology that backs it, the combination of stakeholders who must manage the cybercrime have all not been able to answer the question, how can I arrest this typical criminal going about doing whatever he wants to do, making money, escaping punishment. If at all he gets caught in a place of his choice. We have no answers to all these questions. Only because we don't have data. We don't have data on the type of crime committed, the person committing it, the methodology adopted for that, and very often the cyber criminal is very well funded. He has no constraints of time like you and I got. He has no constraints of funding like many of us have got. With all these advantages, he ensures that he takes advantage of the various failures in the ecosystem that governs cybercrimes, and therefore is always a step or two ahead of those who are worried about, those who are victimized, those who suffer from the ill effects of a typical cybercrime. I always keep saying that if you look at where we are today on this, it is like galloping unbridled horses. It's very difficult to control them because you already let them go off. And 3 days ago, we were talking about the impact of artificial intelligence on cybercrimes. And the consensus of the expert group was that will add more value to cyber criminal than to those who want to control cybercrimes. So we have a greater challenge ahead of us. Because the use of AI, it is very likely that the criminal won't be one step ahead of us, but will be multiple steps ahead of us. In conclusion, I don't want to sound pessimistic. In fact, I am a great optimist in the legal system. But unfortunately, data that's available to us makes me sound very pessimistic. And I would like to conclude by saying that there is a great need for all stakeholders managing cybercrime to come together and don't just focus on changing the law, but focus on changing every element that constitutes the process whereby the criminal remains well ahead of us. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. It was nice talking to you. And I think I'm on the dot 6:55 now. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy to have questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for finishing that right well ahead of time, actually speaking. If you can stop sharing your screen.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I was mentioning that it is actually much better than what I've expected in terms of the time. And in terms of the overview that you have given, looks like there's much more to it than what meets the eye. At one level, the unbridled horses are having the wildest run because of the structural impediments that we have in our society, in our legal system, in the way we are actually organized. I think we are more in terms of protecting our own subsystems, more in terms of compliance to the existing rules and regulations, and we are busy leading our own lives. Whereas the cyber criminal actually comes very, very differently from a different world altogether. I mean, so to say. And there are no burdens tied down to a cyber criminal like the burdens that we have. So therefore, there's a fresh lease of energy in thinking, application, and use of, as you also have mentioned, funding and access to knowledge of jurisdictions across the world. I think a cyber criminal is more at an advantageous position compared to all of us in small, discrete formats that we exist here. That's definitely putting cyber criminal ahead of us by far. It is scary also, sir. The second aspect I want to mention is that it is scary. Looks like there is nothing much that we can do about it. We have to be very, very cautious. We have to be careful. All that is fine, but looks like if someone is ahead of us, no matter what you do, I think those steps are already taken into consideration in terms of breaking the lock. So you have 5 levers, but the criminal has got answers to all the 5 levers. Therefore, it becomes very scary. And the third and the most important thing we are waiting to actually unlock is when you said you're an optimist. I'm sure to all our questions, you will be able to help us decipher more, understand better, and also how do we go back and apply wherever our assets are getting eroded, our data assets, our financial assets, our privacy assets, assets of reputation, all getting damaged, how these can be addressed. I'm sure through Q&A, we'll be able to address. We are eagerly waiting for you to do that, sir. Before we start the cluster number 1, I want to once again thank you for this wonderful opening remarks that you have presented. It has given landscape what we are going to actually discuss today, and it has put everything in a nice structured perspective. I want to also welcome all the distinguished members who have joined us this evening. Once again, they are leaders from all walks of life. We have war veterans joining, we have Air Marshal joining, we have entrepreneurs joining, we have education leaders, vice chancellors, we have chartered accountants, we have government officials joining from different cities that I can see across the country. I think this is a wonderful combination of people that have joined, all because of you, sir. This amazing topic has pulled everyone back to the session today. So 125th has kicked off in great style. Thank you, and over to Professor Prasad for the first cluster of Q&A. Your questions will be taken up. Please keep raising hands. Your questions will be taken up in the second cluster. We will go with the first cluster now. Professor Prasad, welcome and thanks.
Thank you, Professor Rao. Thank you, sir, for a wonderful introduction to this seemingly ever-increasing field, which is accelerating as it appears to people like us. I hope we get a better understanding to come to some conclusion of where we should be able to focus in the beginning. Of course, you did make the statement that stakeholders need to come together. So the first question is about yourself. How did you come to this field? It's a very interesting field, and it was not there so many years ago. I mean, many decades ago. So how did you come to this field, and what do you see as your purpose, an expert in this particular area?
Okay, thank you, Professor Prasad. I come from a very unorthodox background. Primarily, I'm a chartered accountant, but I started off into my technology foray many years. My first employment, I used to work for a British company, Imperial Chemical Industries, and I was very fascinated by seeing the machines there, the IBM 1401 first generation machines, punch card machines. So I moved out here from accounting, started working on that. So I worked on the systems from those days. We got EDP systems, then became IS, it became IT, it became information security. So for some strange reason, while I kept on working on this technology and machines, I'd always focused on controls. I worked more and more on IT controls, EDP controls, IS controls, and now, of course, it's an overall scheme of controls. So it was basically a control orientation for me. How did I come to cyber criminology? I was looking for a new area to do my research on that is related to controls of the computer environment. And it's very clear it is not going to be another programming research, another technology research, but a multidisciplinary research. And I hit on this area called cyber criminology. It took me close to 3 years to find a guide for that, because when I went and asked somebody, they said, sorry, we don't want to do all these funny things. Anyway, I got a guide and who helped me. And then we went through the whole process. And I picked up. In fact, in some university circles where I speak, unfortunately, they make a comment which I don't agree with. They call me the father of cyber criminology in India, which I don't agree with. I'm not that kind of a person. So I'm one of the earliest to come into this, because I felt that, the criminologists took such crime in one way. The technology took it differently, as I mentioned. And I don't want to name the person. I also had an occasion to meet one of the Chief Justice of High Court in India. He heard my speech and called me to his chamber. And he also said that, look, we want people like you to do some research on combining social sciences, technology, and law. So all this motivated me to become a cyber criminologist.
Excellent, sir. This goes well with the direction that this field is taking. And so from being a chartered accountant to IS to a cyber criminologist, I think that's quite a bit of area to traverse, and also indicates that we need to be curious about a number of things in order to understand this and do something about it. So the next one is a bit about the motivation of, is there a difference in motivation that a cyber crime person compared to other crimes?
Yes, very good question, Professor Prasad. There is a lot of difference in motivation. Very often, there are 3 generations cyber criminals who come down. The first generation, motivation was one-upmanship. I am better than you. And it all started with students disagreeing with professors and saying, oh, you don't agree with me, give me lower marks, I'll hack your system, change the marks. First generation criminals were one-upmanship. Second generation criminal, it was just one-upmanship plus demonstrating using cybercrime certain value system. They said, if you don't agree with me, I'll attack you. This is political, economic, regional, social, religious. The second generation people said, it is just to use cybercrime as a tool to tell you that I don't agree with you. The third generation now, which is more scary, they don't care about one-upmanship, they don't care about opinion, they don't have to come with some conviction. They're simply there to make money. That is demonstrated by organized crime gangs across the world moving slowly towards cyber crimes, where they were earlier handling trans-border crimes, trans-border heinous crimes. They're saying it is far more viable to spend the money on cybercrime than other crimes. It's also understandable because in other forms of crimes, you're physically exposed to the aftermath of a crime. Whereas in cybercrime, you sit in an office, air-conditioned office, coffee served on table, laptop with you, and do whatever you want. So they say it's very comfortable for me to do that. Why should I do other things? So today's motive is clear, it's money. And that is what is scary.
So the return on investment is getting focused on. I think people are shifting to this area. Organized syndicates seem to be shifting to this area, and it seems more and more attractive. And you also said that AI is going to help them. So it looks even more attractive.
Yes, it is not just the ROI being understood. They do formal risk assessment, exactly like you and I do for a project. They take a cybercrime project, do risk assessment. Their biggest risk, as you will appreciate, is risk of being apprehended. And today, with all the loopholes I talked to you about, they know the risk is very low. And they say, just go ahead, put money on it, put time on it. Returns will come in due course.
So it's not just return, it is also risk. So it's become more sophisticated.
Indeed. In fact, there are underground systems. Sometimes, you get to know what's happening there and all that. Although they don't like us, they feel that we're all too much aligned to government, so they don't talk to us much. But if some loose talk does happen, I keep on hearing this. They are more concerned about risk than anything else, because they also know governments are becoming sharper and smarter. So that's what is driving them.
Is it that they're using models in risk that we are unaware of, or something that we need to learn from them? What do you have to say on that, sir?
My knowledge of that is hearsay, as I mentioned. I mean, I'm not part of the underground. I'm not a cyber criminal, so I don't know what they're doing. But whatever hearsay tells me, nothing more sophisticated than what we do. He's just asking the plain questions like, what is my concern? Which government will attack me? What will happen if I get caught? What are the compensating controls? How do I build the controls? Very common first level risk management.
So it looks like a business model, well-assessed business model of its own.
Absolutely correct.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, Professor.
Now coming to the technology dimensions, you did mention about AI being there to help them. So all these other developments in technology also could accelerate the growth of cybercrime as of now. So what are the current trends there? Can you throw some light on this so that people who are interested can look at it further?
I think all the technologies that have been impacting the old world of technology, like, things like, apart from AI, there are a number of other things, blockchain, for example, cryptocurrencies. Now, everyone, for example, there has been attack on the crypto primitives, attack on crypto exchanges. Now, these are different flavors of cybercrime. Now, what concerns me is something else. Now, the standard setting organization in the world, for example, NIST is the most respected standard setting organization in the world. I mean, they control the entire standards for technology controls. For example, cryptos is being done by them. There's a complaint that has come up now. I can quote because it's formally complained. They're saying the cyber criminals have intruded into those systems. The result is they have introduced an error in the computation of the strength of a crypto primitive. The result, the allegation is the recommendation made by NIST to adopt a given crypto primitive has a value for its strength, which is wrongly computed. Now, that is the degree to which sophistication is available among those who are involved in cybercrime. I mean, I'm quoting this is already in the press and people are worried about it. So they're well endowed. Whatever be technology, you talk about blockchain technology, crypto primitive technology, artificial intelligence, robotics process automation, they're into that.
So that makes it even more scary. It also tells us the level to which they are ahead of those who are setting standards.
Just add one point to what you said, Professor. It is scary, but I think evolution of crime management has been like that. For example, look at the British Constabulary, which is the oldest police force we know of, recorded police force. 220 years of British Constabulary has been there. I'm sure when it started 220 years ago, a typical British policeman handled different kind of crime, very scary, because it's the first time he's handling crime. Today, I think crimes are there, but not scary. I think this is how it will happen in cybercrime also. Maybe given some time, the stakeholders for managing cybercrime will understand that they can't let this go on like this. They'll come together, put the resources together, and be able to counter effectively most of the criminals. But I can also tell you that common law crime can never become zero on the world. Cybercrimes also never become zero on the world. But the intensity can be brought under control.
Excellent. So what you're also saying is that in the future, perhaps sometime in the future, it could become as ordinary as some of the other crimes that we are talking about, assuming that somewhere along the line, technology also kind of, doesn't keep changing.
Very true. And other factor we must not forget is the kind of funding they get for research is significant, very significant. So they will also be working alongside the other technologists to make sure that their technology, whatever we call their technology, comes up and is helpful to them in what they want to do. So this will go parallelly.
Who funds these kind of research, sir?
The first answer is organized crime gangs. If you look at internet, for example, when internet came into being almost about 25 years ago, we talked about internet was there and slowly coming up. We had a lot of funding requirements. Now, if I tell you the source of funding for internet 25 years ago, you'll be shocked, Professor. You know who funded it? The pornography portal funded it because they wanted internet with high speed because their sale was dependent upon how clear internet was, how fast can you give it. So they funded it. Slowly, of course, it becomes self-funded because nowadays it's like that. As you know today, is the organized crime gangs who are working on various parts of cybercrime are funding it extensively.
Fine, sir. Now coming to how do you see the shape of this curve? You mentioned that there will be phases where this will kind of steady up. So what do you see looking ahead in terms of the phases that this will go through?
Okay, good question. So one of the areas I did my research on. I drew some inspiration from the work of a well-known criminologist, Professor Edwin Sutherland, who coined the term white-collar crimes. When white-collar crimes was sort of organized by him as a thought process, he was on the same question: what kind of phases will this white-collar crime go through? And he said, in any organization or any community or any environment, it will follow a bell-shaped curve. On the left extreme, there will be 1 sigma people who will tell you, whatever you do or don't do, I'll commit a crime. Right extreme, 1 sigma will tell you, whatever you do, I never commit a crime. In between 4 sigma are the people who are cat on the wall. So you have to have your processes, procedures, policies, law, and motivation to ensure this 4 sigma does not move left. With the limited data we got today, I believe cyber criminals follow the same pattern which Edwin Sutherland talked about for white-collar criminals. You have one set of people who say, I never ever think of it. Other set are hardened criminals. And we have a whole lot of people whom we call a deadly combination of curious but ignorant. It is they who will decide the way in which cybercrime will move in the world. For example, you have a policy saying, I want an 8-character password. You give to somebody. The guy is very curious. Why can't I have 7 characters? What will go wrong? He's ignorant. He doesn't know the result. But he says, let me try it. Instead, he tries it out. He opens a Pandora's box for somebody to come inside. So these are factors that are determining the ways in which it will take shape in the future. It is this curious ignorant, who are a vast majority among the community, who need to be trained, taught, and given a lot of education, a lot of awareness, who will determine, in turn, how will these criminals grow and behave in the future.
So training and education seems to be one major angle which needs to be looked at.
Definitely.
In order to move along this phase.
Yes. Absolutely correct, Professor.
So how do we work on this? Suppose you need to build up this sort of awareness. So this needs to be at different levels for different people, for different age groups. So how does the society or the system go about doing this?
Okay, I think a lot of work has been done already, initiated already. I think virtually every bank in the country is talking to you about what are the safety precautions to be taken. The government is announcing a number of initiatives where it is funding education, training, and awareness. So it has started. Now, to reach it out to the number of people who connect to the internet is a mammoth task. It will probably take the involvement of government, NGOs, academicians, various kinds of stakeholders in the society, including judiciary, the police. I think every one of them have got a role to play. As of now, is there a roadmap for it? Clarity about what will happen in the country? I don't see it. It may probably happen in the course of time.
So at this stage, if you would advise universities like us on what we should do, what would you suggest?
Okay, very good question. In fact, I'm very glad you asked this question. I must tell you a small fact before I answer this question. The first master's program in information security and digital forensics was started at the Madras University. It was in a collaborative arrangement between my company and the University of Madras Department of Criminology, my parent department, where we started training people on handling cybercrimes. But being a university, more of a sort of a public sector university, it has own limitations. An university like yours, where you have little flexibility to handle, you have certainly a big role to play in doing three things. First of all, creating a whole lot of people who can go around various communities and sow the seed of understanding what the community can do, cannot do, should not do. Is awareness. Second, there's a huge gap between availability and requirement of people managing cybercrimes, technical, behavioral, societal, and a whole lot of it. I think you could probably bridge that gap in a very big way. Third, at a very high level, at a policy making level, because you have access to large volumes of data, you could probably use the data, draw some conclusions, and influence the decision makers of the country and say where they could go further, what could they do, and what is not being done right now. How could they rectify it? In fact, I'm sure the judiciary will support you, the police will support you, and the government, the Minister of Information Technology and Electronics, will also be very happy to hear from people like you, because you can buttress your recommendation with a lot of data, which I'm sure you're privy to.
Thank you very much, sir. We come to the end of this cluster. I hand it back to Professor Rao.
You're most welcome. I enjoyed talking to you, Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. All the while listening to your responses, it looks like it's a tussle between the exceptional forces working against the forces which are supposed to actually join themselves from various stakeholders that you talked about. These stakeholders will have to come together as you have proposed. So joining forces of the stakeholders vis-a-vis the exceptional forces, because the criminal always works on exceptions, whereas we are trying to start from zero and start building up, whereas the criminal works on the reverse manner. I think very, very interesting, very intriguing at the same time. And we are trying to make sense of all these things that are evolving. Whenever you give an example, we are going back to thinking what has happened in the recent past to some of us. I'm sure many around the screen are trying to connect it to themselves and their own experiences, or the experiences that their friends and relatives have shared, or we have read about somewhere in the recent past. Sir, we have lots of questions actually, and we will probably limit those questions and see how it emerges. We will definitely take up those questions for which the hands have been already raised. But before that, there is one question which I would like to take. The topic is about cyber criminal. Of course, the impact is in different domains. So the first question is a very general question, and that is URL links sent by fraudsters may look similar to those of original bank or mutual fund company. How to find the difference? This is a most existential question. I will request you to help us understand this, sir.
All right. Phishing has been a very significant methodology of successful cybercrimes. But I can tell you that 80% of the cases, if you very carefully look at the URL link sent to you, you'll find small differences, very minute differences. It can meet your eye, may not meet your eye. So people said, the criminals said, oh, you're trying to find the difference, so let me do something else. For example, there are different linguistic representation of characters. For example, A. I can say A as you normally read it, it has got a ASCII value. I can use A from a different source, different language with the ASCII value for that, and then give it to you. It's very, very hard for you to understand. So what happens is, fortunately for us, in most cases of phishing, you'll get the mail from a source with which you have no connection at all. For example, I'll get a mail saying that your account in X bank is undergoing a change, when I know for a fact I don't have an account in X bank. Now, second point, in most of this case, they want the credentials, user ID, login, they'll do, etc. We did a small experiment in our lab, knowing fully well that is going to be a problem if it backfires. We picked up a phishing mail and first of all traced it to the Department of Biotechnology, University of Turin, with which you have nothing to do at all. Then it said your bank account is being reversed. So as part of reworking, please give us your user ID. So we gave some user ID. What do you think should happen? Then he simply accepted it because he doesn't know user ID. So I can say whatever I want, ABCD 1, 2, 3. Next he said, give me your password. So we give some password, some unknown. He said, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing UCD password, because he doesn't know. I also don't know. Then it asked a very interesting question. Please give me your credit card details. So we gave a wrong credit card detail. See, we gave a wrong user ID. He said, okay. Wrong password. He said, okay. Wrong credit card number. He said, sorry, you made a mistake. Please have the correct credit card number. That is because there are very simple ways to find out if a credit card number is a valid or not. There's something called a Lund's algorithm, which if you run, you'll find out if the card number is valid or not. And it is not expensive. It takes you $15 per month to get to your system. So this guy had attached the Lund's algorithm. So when I gave a wrong credit card, it said, you don't have this. So there are a lot of such cases where, in a very early stage, the criminal fails. But from the user point of view, the first and foremost thing I'd like to always say is, if you feel that this has nothing to do with you, don't even open the mail. Forget answering it. But it's possible that the mail came from a genuine source, from a source which you had a connection. There you have to very, very, very carefully, using an electron microscope, look at the URL and find if there's anything abnormal in that. Even if you miss that stage, somewhere as you go along, there will be a suspicious activity that will come to the fore. No cybercrime has happened without at least one suspicious activity in the process of victimizing. Be very alert. Be conscious. Instead to do that, 99% chances are you will not have a fall prey to the cybercriminal. But there's still a 1% chance that perhaps.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. The takeaway for us is that in the first instance, what appears to be not yours, don't even go there. Don't even open it up.
Correct.
You know pretty well that you have actually not taken a loan. You know pretty well that you don't have an account in that particular bank. You know pretty well that your insurance has never been taken up, but now it has come to maturity. Things like that, which is the pickup line, and we fall for such pickup lines. And your advice is, stick to your guns and don't fall for such things which you have not initiated. Very good. And amazing that because of the busy lives, because of the work-life schedule that we have, I think over usage of phone is the only thing which is always with us. And therefore, everything is now enabled on phone. And therefore, the tendency to fall trapped to this criminal activities is higher from our side, unknowingly, unwittingly. And yes, that's where we have to be watchful, as you said, super microscope, scopic view we have to take. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. The second question that I would like to ask is, yeah, I'll close it and I'll respond to the hands that have gone up. Mr. Krishnamurthy Balasubramaniam, you can please go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, good evening, Ram. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you. Fine.
Yeah.
Thank you for
And
asking.
yeah, very good presentation. And in fact, I enjoyed. See some few questions I want to just ask. See that the number of prosecution cases with respect to the cyber crimes are far too less. I don't know why the government is not putting effort on this. Because the wide publicity for the prosecution cases, what all the punishment given to cyber criminals, they're all very, very important, which is not happening now.
Mr. Balasubramaniam, I think the government is not the organization to determine how much of cybercrime has to be managed and reported. Government can encourage reporting, but ultimately it is the victim who has to determine to report this. So government may not do much about this. I think as I was mentioning earlier to Professor Prasad, it is the creation of awareness among the potential victims, like you and I, all of us are there, that we should determine that it is worthwhile reporting, and that's what will take it further. I think government may not do much about this. They'll simply tell you who was reported or was not reported. So it's with us. The honest is with you and I to ensure that whenever something goes wrong, report it. But I know there are impediments. I mean, you typically go to a police station and say, I have cybercrime, and ask, what is that? So I've been educating what is cybercrime. So you get irritated about it. So, I mean, we understand these kinds of things.
Great. I think now the cyber crime, one is the threat to your assets, threat to your financials, is also combined with the threat to your reputation.
Yes.
And then that potent combination is making the victims not report.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For example, what we have read in the recent past, in Hyderabad also, cyber crimes department has been writing articles and creating this awareness. And we have come across, and some of my lawyer friends also have been sharing with us, that the sleaze video, you will be tapping into it, you will watch it, and you have actually, it is purportedly that you have asked for it, and therefore the other person starts blackmailing. And the end result of the blackmailing is you end up sending lots of money, and that continues unabated. So that's where a combination of risk to reputation as well as loss of money or risk to your finances both happening. But then data has been infringed, your number has been obtained by someone, and your behavioral aspects have been tapped into, and in a split second you're in a trap. So
Absolutely.
These things also we are seeing. So that's why they are not reporting. Thank you, sir. I'll take this question from Professor Shantanu Ray. Over to you, Professor.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Rao, and of course, Dr. Subramaniam for a scintillating presentation. Now, the question I have, the question I have is like some things I found common, like Salford and Dubai, because I have also worked there. I was carrying out a project for the University of Salford, and of course, I've stayed for 9 years in Dubai. Now, what I just want to ask you is, and of course, right now, of course, and I'm in Dubai. The thing is, yes, how do you see the different countries responding to this crime differently? So UAE, of course, the Middle East has one way of looking at things. Like one of my friends, just for instance, since you are a lawyer, he was carrying in the Bengali, they have this posto. Posto is like, it's kind of an opium, kind of something like that. So he got caught at Dubai airport when he landed. He didn't realize it. And then, of course, he called me up and I went there and my lawyer friend and he got released. We said he didn't know about it. The thing is, in some countries, there are certain laws, certain things are allowed, certain not allowed. In cybercrime, do you feel these differences across countries? Because this is pan-global. I mean, there are somebody staying in Africa can do something. I mean, internet is global. So how do the different countries respond to this?
Professor Shantanu Roy, thank you for the question. It's a good question. As I mentioned earlier, we have not come to the stage where we say we'll enact a special law that is all encompassing in terms of cybercrime management. We are still struggling. Many countries in the world are still following the model law given by Interpol. It's just a model law. I mean, it can't become all encompassing. So they are strongly influenced by the legal system that works. For example, in Dubai, it is not the common law, it's not the civil law, it's their own law, which is influenced by Islamic laws. There are many of the countries that follow civil law, following the Napoleonic Code. Many of us follow the English-based common law. So not only these differences, understanding cybercrime is also different. Let me give you a couple of examples. I once got an invitation from the head of Supreme Court of one of the countries in Central Africa. I don't want to name the country. A Central African country, she told me, it's a lady, Chief Justice there. She said that they have been funded by UN to formulate a cyber law for the country. So that has happened. Somebody came, a consultant came, wrote a cyber law, and he finished his job, good job, and went away. Their thought is, what do you do this document called cyber law? How do you implement it? Who will prosecute? Who will argue? Who will be defense? So I was told, why don't you come and train our judges and lawyers? So I went there, trained judges, trained lawyers. But I found one very strange thing in the back of their mind, that anything that you see on the internet, anything you read in Google is gospel truth. Don't ask questions. Okay. So the law was based on Insultron's model law, but those involved in interpretation, namely the prosecution, the defense, the judiciary, were highly influenced by whatever they read that morning on internet. So I want to break this. So I did something interesting. I created a website in the night. The first day I was there, I created a website where I put some interesting data about that country. Put the photograph of one of those in my class in the session. I controlled the website access to myself because I didn't want others to see it, and wrote a small statement there saying, Mr. So-and-so, whose photograph appears here, will be this country's representative at the 100-meter sprint in next Olympics. I told him next morning, open this. I'll give you access now. He said, my photograph? I said, your photograph. Who said I'm going to run Olympics? I said, I don't know. Google is telling you that. And that is telling you. Will you believe it? He said, no, I don't run. I'm not a sprint. How did this happen? Or did they think of an old record in school? They want to take me. I mean, he thought of a different direction altogether. One extreme view on how do you make a law subservient to what you see on the net. This is one way. The second extreme, for example, look at the United States. Most states in the US, they got something called sentencing guidelines. Now, the battle today there is, how do you fit different forms of cybercrime into different versions of sentencing guidelines? This is another battle. Third, a country like India, where you got a very strong Indian penal code, a common law against all crimes in the country. Unfortunately, many people in the ecosystem, where they find it very difficult to find the specific provisions dealing with the existing cybercrime or reported cybercrime in the special law or the Information Technology Act, they take a short circuit and say, why not twist and turn this crime into a common law crime, prosecute under IPC, because both the police and the public prosecutor and the defense and the judiciary are authorities in Indian Penal Code. I am comfortable handling. So third kind of legal system is move it from special law to common law, a unique, not a very unique special law, to a common law. There's a fourth kind of people who are mostly in some parts of Africa today, where the law exists only on the statute book and is not practiced at all. Are there going to be approaches that are different to understanding cybercrimes? Yes, there are. In fact, we are still not agreed on a common taxonomy of what is a cybercrime. I'll give one illustration, we'll close it close. I mean, I don't take more time. When we had a case where earlier, I suppose you remember this case, there was a threat to the Honorable Prime Minister earlier by a person in the southern district of Tamil Nadu. He had sent an email threatening the life of the Prime Minister. So obviously, Prime Minister is involved. So the CBI got into action. They came and arrested him. What is the crime? Is it threat or use of computer? They successfully said, we have cracked the most significant cybercrime in the country. But many jurists, many lawyers, many judges say, it's not a cybercrime, it's a normal crime. The threat was given to the Prime Minister. Just because the threat happened to go by email, that doesn't become cybercrime. So we have definitional issues. So it's evolving. So we still don't know. As I mentioned, there are 22 rigorous definitions published in the current Journal of Economic Criminology. Which of them will happen? Which will you take? Which will you leave? It's a long way to go. But I'm very sure in the years to come, the Parliament in its wisdom will adopt the right kind of definition, after which we'll say, how is the law different from other countries?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The most welcome, Professor.
The summary is that the unsuspecting victims are divided by frontiers of law, various laws of lands, behavior, culture, and definitions, whereas criminals actually do not have any such borders or impediments.
Absolutely right.
And it's an enterprise-wide, agile organization that is fighting against these structured fragments of unsuspecting victims. Again and again, it is coming to only that thing, and it is an impossible task at this point in time as we talk. Sir, we'll proceed, and I'll request Mr. Vijay Ramanujam to raise his question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sudhakar Raoji. Dr. Rama Subramaniam, good evening. It was a rather crisp and informative presentation. I particularly enjoyed the jurisdictional arbitrage and the shaming deterrent, or the lack of it, that you mentioned. It's quite intriguing. So my question is, so all the intelligent questions have been asked by people before. So I'm going to ask an interesting question, or rather make you give an interesting answer, which might sort of, probably share a story or so, which has been the biggest heist of all in cybercrime universe. Is it that Bangladesh bank robbery of $1 billion? Having been an ex-banker, I followed it very closely. But has there been a more daring heist before? If there has not been, perhaps you could share what happened in that case.
Mr. Vijay Ramanujam, thank you very much. Appreciate your question. The Bangladesh heist became popular not because the value involved. People have lost more money than that. It became popular because the victim was the central bank of a country. Well, that's important. I mean, out of central bank is supposed to be citadel of controls. So that is what drove it into prominence. They said, look, how can central bank be stolen? How can that happen? As I mentioned earlier, like we don't know what crimes occur, we don't know what is the value of crimes, what is the value of data loss, because nobody tells you that. But if you ask me what has been the most interesting part of cybercrimes, it's not necessarily financial loss, but people, countries have deployed cyber criminals, although they don't admit to you openly in that way. There is a national level attack between enemies. Now, what has now become clear, the battle between Palestine, Hamas, and Israel, the cyber battle started quite a few months ago. There were constant efforts by Israeli hackers to bring down Hamas systems, constant effort by Palestinian hackers to bring down Israeli systems. So these are harbingers of the war to come. There, the stakes are very high. In fact, one of the common trend that is being talked about today is that when the first attack happened in Israel by the Hamas organization, it was not an intelligence failure per se. It was a success of a cyber attack on Israeli intelligence. That went undetected. That is the strangest part. And that resulted in successful initial onslaught by one on the other. Like that, there are many more instances being talked about. Since many of them are national level issues involving armed forces, they're generally not available in public documentation. But I'll share two things with you. One, tomorrow's cyber criminal will not just look at an IP-based data that is stored. All data is stored today is an IP-based, right? Internet protocol-based. We call IP data. There's another set of data which controls process industry. We call them SCADA. It is not IP-based. The IP protocol does not work there. The fundamental rule we have today is SCADA and IP should not talk to each other. If that is broken, we have a lot of problems. Natanz, when the atomic reactor went down in Iran, it was a case where a worm was hiding in the IP system. Somebody, either deliberately or out of ignorance, connected an IP data system to a SCADA system. The worm went inside and shut it down. See, these are more dangerous than loss of money, because loss of money can sometimes be traced and got back. So this can be disastrous. And if you look at the next generation attack, will happen on SCADA systems. You can shut down water supply like that by one command. You tell the SCADA system shut down, it will shut down, because SCADA is what is controlling water supply, sewerage, electricity, and many plants run on the basis of that. I was talking about a case study recently to one set of armed forces personnel in one of the countries known to us. I told them one of your risks you're running is that you're manufacturing battle tanks. The battle tank's strength is the armor, which means if a shell comes and hits you, the armor will shield you and you still proceed further. How does the armor get the power? Because of the metallurgical components that went into making the armor metal. If I have a SCADA system and change that metallurgical components, I will get an armor as brittle as glass. I don't need any great computer knowledge for that. I need to be able to look at the SCADA system, walk inside, change data, and walk out of it. Now, these are tomorrow's kinds of things. This heist will not be money loss, human loss, reputation loss, winning loss in a war. So this is what we should be more concerned. We look at levels of what we're talking about. But you and I, as a common retail user of the internet, don't have to be worried about those kinds of things.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ram.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I think this question and this answer, contrary to our expectations, has further increased the level of, I mean, someone should actually put a scale here. What is the level of scare that has gone up, response after response? Although we would like to see that after hearing all the responses, we will have some solutions to go home with. But I think this example of real-time war and deployment of cyber crimes in war, manifesting in war across two nations and two geographies, is humongous. I think, as you said, disastrous, and it will cost us lots of lives. Yeah, scary. I want to move away from that question, not to run away, but I'll go to the next questions. I'll request Mr. Pattabhiram himself to ask the question. Welcome, Mr. Pattabhiram. Thank you so much for connecting with Dr. Rama Subramaniam, and I'll request you to raise the question.
Yeah, first, one quick observation to you, Sudhakar. If you're so scared of the whole thing, I think you must get an external guy, do an audit of the entire ICFAI university across campuses to find out how vulnerable you are, including the various mail IDs that people use. That's just off the thing. Just a Dr. Rama, I wanted to ask, no, there are lots of crimes that go unsolved in the real world, crimes of corruption, crimes of murder, etc. Is it that in the cyber world, every crime can be tracked?
Okay, good, straight question, straight, simple answer, big no. Because we are still struggling to even catalog cybercrimes, build a taxonomy of the methodologies, and that struggle we are doing with a very small percentage of knowledge we have today about cybercrimes. So as it stands today, we have a long way to go before we can say, I can crack every single cybercrime. A new discipline called digital forensics is emerging. But let me also tell you, Patabi, just as we are having an emergence of digital forensics at the same pace, same speed, perhaps faster, a new discipline is emerging called anti-forensics. What the criminal does is, as he walks into a system, he also makes sure that traces of his being present there are successfully removed. So with all this happening, today's knowledge base, I don't think we can have an answer to the question saying yes. It's not possible to crack all cybercrimes. I hate the answer because, as I said, I am basically an optimist, but these are very pessimistic thoughts. I can't avoid telling you.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yes, I think truth be told, the situation is like that. The current evolution of forensics vis-a-vis anti-forensics.
Yeah.
So there is a lag difference, and that's where your response comes from. Fantastic, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I'll take one question before, Ms. Manisha Pillai has a question to ask. We'll give it.
Thank you, sir. Very good evening to you, sir.
Good
It was
evening.
it was a very elaborated presentation. Actually, as I said, it is covering even the psychology of the victims, which you did in the presentation. So my question is, actually, I have suffered this cyber crime along with my father, who happened to be a commandant in armed forces and who was known to be very shrewd and very clever. But we couldn't get away with the cyber crime. It was a big amount of money which was lost. So a part of it was given back by the bank. But when this real FIR, we had to approach the police and all the things. So the condition of the cyber cell at their part, it was very pathetic. So though knowledgeable, and I think we belong to an educated system, we were not able to deal with what they are talking, what they are saying. So what will happen to the common people? It's not about the big wars or big crimes, but the common people, the women particularly, they don't even understand. And the kids are involved in it when such crimes are happening. Maybe rupees 50,000 will also be a big amount for the family, which is lost with the cyber crime. So at that level, what the system, the law, or as I said, the cyber cell from the police part, what they can do, they are acting helpless. So what we can do to strengthen them, to help the common people or help the people like us?
Ms. Pillai, thank you for asking this question. I think you answered the question yourself. The police are helpless.
Yeah, they are helpless, very.
Number of reasons. It is not they're not sincere. It is not as if they don't want to do that. But the kind of priorities they have got, unfortunately, cybercrime does not come on top of the list for various reasons. For various reasons, because there are other important pressing pressures on them to maintain law and order, to look at managing of crime, which is more better documented. So they tend to concentrate on that because of one, long experience in handling that. Two, whatever you say or don't say, cybercrime is a very, very ununderstood animal. They don't know what it is. They don't know what you're talking about. So as you very correctly said, when you go to them, they have no idea what you're talking about. That is not because they don't want to help you, but because today's system is such that, one, they're grossly undermanned. We don't have as many cyber trained police professionals as you'd like to have in the country. This is not for cyber crime. If you look at the total policing, every police commission tells you we are short of people. And I'm sure we'll look at specialized shortage of cybercrime trained policemen, that is more pronounced. So it will take a bit of time, but I'm more than certain that in the course of time, the government will address this problem, get more trained people. In fact, I must tell you, I'm very privileged to have trained quite a few inspectors of police in cybercrime branch of Tamil Nadu Police today, because they all underwent my course in the Madras University. But that's not enough. That number is very, very insignificant, but a good starting point. I mean, the good thing is started now, so it will probably grow. Will this grow at a pace at which you want it to grow? We don't know, because there are a lot of constraints. Now, budgetary constraints, organizational constraints, all this will have to be overcome. It will take a bit of time. It will certainly take a bit of time, but I'm more than certain that given the importance being attached to cybercrime management, government will address this, and soon will come to a stage of saying, well, if you got a cybercrime, talk to the police, they will take care of it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the optimistic view. Hope that will happen soon in the country.
I also hope so, Ms. Pillai. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes, so that's really optimistic. And yes, as you have predicted, sir, I think various policing systems in the country, in different states, different cities, the priority now being given, the emphasis laid for cyber crimes with special cells coming up and attention being paid to. I'm sure there is a lot of hope there, and we soon should be able to get there in terms of plateauing it or even arresting the rise of cyber crimes. Sir, another question I have, this Ms. Chitra will take that question if you have, can just wait for a moment and I'll take this one first. What is the most effective tool to ensure a software developed and marketed to an individual is not copied and marketed by unscrupulous persons? This is the question put out by one of the participants.
Okay. The most effective tool is you take care of it yourself. You take care of all the precautions yourself. For example, you're developing something. We keep saying this. You store a software in the software library. Now, there are good protocols available, excellent control processes defined, but just as we say that the various stakeholders don't do what they are supposed to do, many of us do not follow good, safe storing protocol. For example, as I mentioned, if you're having a software you developed, which is very important to you, which you feel should not be tampered with, take the extra trouble of closing the day with an at-rate listing, opening it tomorrow morning in good library, check the at-rate, make sure they're safe. They're not saying, instantly something has gone wrong. The earlier you realize something has gone wrong, the better the chance of recovering from that. But let me also tell you, although there are well-documented protocols to protect software against pilferage, and more importantly, against lack of integrity. Somebody comes in, changes the code and goes away. We don't even know about it. There are well-structured, documented security protocols. If you follow that, I think 99% case you're safe. But I can also assure you, many don't follow the protocols. They try to do some short circuiting because they say we don't have time for it, we don't have resource for that. And very unfortunately, I heard answers like, it won't happen to me. Why, I don't know. But people say, well, it's unlikely to happen. So don't worry, don't waste your time doing all this. This is all some security guys telling you stories. So come out of the mindset. There are very good documented protocols available. Please follow them.
Great, so nice advice. Follow the documented security protocols and take enough precautions. I think that should help us to a great extent. So the other question that I have before I give it to Ms. Chitra is this one. This is, what is the best method to cyber secure an enterprise against ransomware attacks?
Okay. Ransomware comes through a carrier. And if you look at most successful ransomware attacks in the world today, the carrier has been an email. And in the email, an attachment, one or more attachments. Despite all the advice people give you saying, never ever open an attachment on a mail that came from unknown source, we, out of enthusiasm, out of anxiety, out of desire to know what's happening around, click on that, and then we get in trouble. I can also understand that you can't have a blanket ban and tell everybody in the world, don't ever open an email attachment. The enterprise is involved. If it's not one individual, but an organization involved, there will be a quarantine available in the IT department. Send the suspicious or unknown email to the quarantine of the IT department. They'll open the attachment in the quarantine, limit the damage to what is there, and you might come out of it successfully. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we tend to short circuit most protocols. That's why I told you, the curious and ignorant, that combination is what is affecting us. If I tell this IT manager, don't ever open an attachment, the guy says, let's see what happens if you open it. This is what you see. You come back and say afterwards, oh my God, something went wrong. So if in the enterprise, you talk to the IT department. If it's a large enterprise, there'll be a very good quarantine system there. Take an attachment there, open it there, see if something is not all right, in which case jettison it. And if you feel it's all right, take it forward. There are processes again for that. Again, as I mentioned, this will substantially reduce the impact, but there can still be 1 in 100 cases where you could not do anything about it. But please become 99 on that.
constant vigil. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that. I'll request Ms. Chitra to raise a question.
Yes, very good evening, sir.
Good evening.
And first of all, thank you, Sudhakar Rao, sir, for putting this burning topic on cybercrime. Sir, it's happened last year that I don't know how it had happened. I just completed my work, and the next day, the moment I had opened my laptop, my files were being hijacked. I say, whenever I was opening any of the file, there was a letter attached with that requesting for ransom money in dollars, about I think 419, something like that. And still the things are same, because they're one of the software SPSS which was still working. Rest all the files are being corrupted. So is there any way to retrieve those files? First of all, I was not aware where to complain, give this complaint, or how I could able to retrieve my files. And the moment you have said in the previous question that is it only the through email that we can get hit by such virus, or other sources are also there? Is there any way we could keep security check on such things so that next time this thing could not happen?
Okay, a very good question, Ms. Chitra. Thank you very much. As I mentioned, in most cases, email is the carrier. There are other carriers also. They connected the internet. And if you permit certain kinds of traffic to come inside, they can also be carrier of ransomware. For example, if you do a file transfer, or if you use a protocol which is not a secure protocol, like a trivial file transfer protocol, TFT protocol as we call them. So if any of your work involved using an unsecured protocol, that will open the floodgate of all this ransomware, virus, worms, Trojan horses to walk into the system. Best is you should talk to your enterprise IT security people and ask them to relook at the rule base of the firewall. So that defines what kind of traffic can come inside, not come inside. That gets updated periodically. In fact, today we do it almost every day because changes happen on a daily basis. If those things are kept intact, we can significantly prevent the attack of ransomware. Next part of the question, can I retrieve it? Depends on what has happened. There are some ransomware which will alter it in such a way. In fact, what happens when they say alter? They encrypt it. And some of them will retain the key with them and tell you if you give $490, I said, I'll give the key to you. There have been cases that people send $490, the guy vanished after that. The key also vanished after that. There are also some ransomware which will find out where is the backup of this data available, go to the backup and encrypt that also. So the intensity of what has been damaged depends upon what kind of ransomware you. I think you should talk to IT security in your organization to be able to analyze in more detail what has happened and try to see if they can retrieve it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
So much for a comprehensive response. I'll now request Dr. Lavanya to raise a question, please, quickly.
Good evening, sir.
Good
Thank
evening.
you for the wonderful presentation. My doubt is that for about more than 2 years, my mobile device per se, laptop and have been hacked, and there is demat account hacking and credit card overbilling also. I've escalated it to the cybercrime cell, but they are still going on unabated. So as you said, some protocols, etc. What can I exactly do? Like we have in Sale of Goods Act caveat emptor, like let the buyer be aware. Whatever, I'm a PhD in international business, so I know the basics of tech, but I'm not a software engineer or IT professional per se. So can you please highlight some points about what I can do, sir?
Okay, Doctor, thank you for the question. If the legal part of the answer is it will take time. Now, also, if you talk to cybercrime cell, as you mentioned earlier, they will take a bit of time to respond to you. But in the meanwhile, if you said you have a demat account, depository participant with whom you have a demat account, all of them who run this kind of services for you have published guidelines on safe internet handling of your account. So please, first of all, follow meticulously every single element of the guideline given to you by the participant GP or such people who are managing a demat account. That is one very basic hygiene requirement. Secondly, we define something strange, something abnormal. Stop the process instantaneously. Don't pursue further. Talk to somebody in your community. For example, if you're working in an organization, there will be an IT department there, the IT security guy there. Talk to the person. Because every different brand of the phone, every different version of the operating system comes with different kinds of vulnerabilities. There is no one solution fits all in these cases. It has to be uniquely tailored for your equipment, your version number of software, and the application that you downloaded. So you have to specifically talk to somebody, spend time with them, explain to them what happened. Talk to, if you're working in the company, talk to your IT security person. If you're not working, if you're an independent consultant, you don't write, talk to somebody who has some knowledge about security. Let them have a look at your device. They'll be able to advise you appropriately. I mean, we don't have a generic answer for this question.
So quickly, I'll request Dr. Shweta Anand. Yeah, that is
Sir, a very good
question.
evening.
Good evening.
Sir, my question is regarding a country, a small European country from Europe called Estonia. And this country was subjected in 2007 to a very strong cyber security attack. Consequently, they embraced blockchain technology, and which has substantially reduced the number of cyber attacks the country is facing today. So is it possible to replicate the model in India, considering that our demography and our population size, but at the same time, there is a pressing need to embrace technology. There is a huge market for fintech sector, and at the same time, they are exposed to such vulnerabilities. So will blockchain be a possible solution for India?
Thank you, Dr. Shweta Anand. I'll slightly rephrase this question. You're saying, is it a viable solution for India? Let us say it's a viable solution for BFSI. Mostly that's where we are talking about. Okay. In the BFSI sector that embraces this technology first, then others come into this. You answer the question in part. Size, demography, and the regulatory regimen in India is significantly different from Estonia. In fact, I'm following Estonia's case very, very closely because I'm interested in that. They have been able to do a lot of things. After the attack happened, they thought that this is an answer. That they did not have an attack post embracing of blockchain is not equivalent to saying, if you adopt blockchain, nothing will go wrong. It only tells you that after blockchain is adopted by the country, the cyber criminals lost interest in the country. If they ever get interested again, they'll go back. One part of it. Second part, the regulation governing blockchain in Estonia is not, repeat, not governed by the central bank of the country. So the central bank of the country has still not come up with any regulation which talks about how to use blockchain. It is fairly freely used among the financial community. But that cannot happen in India because Reserve Bank of India has taken multiple strands on different aspects of blockchain impacting BFSI. They have not said we don't want it, but they are going to regulate it in a way in which it will protect the interest of both the banking sector and the users of the banks in a very big way. So can you replicate Estonian model in India? I'm afraid that
even e-governance aspects, if you would like allow me to add, even the e-governance part has been fully shifted to blockchain technology in Estonia. I mean, is it possible in India also?
That's what I'm saying.
Not just the financial aspect.
Okay. E-governance in India has more dimensions than e-governance in Estonia. In fact, we are talking about very, very different. It's going to be very difficult to replicate what they did because, if you look at a country like Estonia, it is like one small district in India. But I can
Right, sir.
Now, increasing the scaling of this and making it work in a country like India with multiple regulations, state regulation, central regulation, and the kind of assets at stake. The value of asset at stake in India is very, very high compared to asset at stake in Estonia. If it fails, it will probably equal to the failure of one district's budget in India. So I don't think we are going to experiment and say, let us replicate that model, let e-governance go the blockchain way, BFSA go the blockchain way. That, I'm afraid, is probably a bit risky. And I don't think the regulatory bodies in India will come to an adoption of a simple solution like that. Although I'm glad you raised the point that one country is harping on, banking on a very good technology like blockchain technology.
Great, great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Shweta, for engaging in the conversation. Sir, I have one very selfish question, and that is, what should educational institutions and universities be aware of and be ready for in terms of possible cyber crimes that can destabilize the operations of an education institution?
Okay. If you look at an educational institution, there are people whose asset is data, information, knowledge, etc. Now, they should make sure that they recognize this as an asset, the same breadth and length as you recognize other tangible assets. But unfortunately, whatever little I know of the education system, I interact with some of the universities in India and abroad. This is treated as some kind of a different thing. It's the electronic file where you store information. It's treated as some different kind of a situation, and there are no clear protocols to the same depth, the same clarity, the same attention to which I have protocols governing, safeguarding tangible physical assets. So I have always been telling these universities, look, here is an asset, which is your USP. You're surviving because of this asset. Why can't we put in place a set of controls, make it mandated to follow this, like you put in the case of tangible assets? For example, you got a university car. There are a lot of regulations like who will use the car, when can you use it, how can you use it, who will pay for it. But unfortunately, I don't have same detailed protocol controlling access to who can, when, under what condition of a scientific research finding. So we have still not accepted that as value. The first step is recognize that as value and put in place IT controls. If you put those controls and mandate it to be implemented, followed by everybody, I think a large amount of problem will get solved. Not just university, I think this happens everywhere. Design organization, they say we live on design, but that's not the way to look at it.
Correct. Actually, recognizing and placing the value on your assets is the first step to begin with. Have there been any examples of any education institution in this country, you may name or may not name, where they have been bigger victims of cybercrime?
Let me not name, but there are cases of education in this country and abroad who have been victims of cybercrime, but in order to maintain the reputation, they have brushed it under the carpet.
And probably stepping up.
They don't want, this universe, some of them are government universities, so RTI will be there. So once they report to the police, a guy will go and say, under RTI, tell me what went wrong. And that will become disastrous. So like I said, like every other institution in the world, education also says, let's be careful. Let's not disclose whatever happened. We will disclose what is comfortable.
Right. But possibly after that, they have taken lots of measures.
Yeah. They have done a review of it and then, found out who was responsible, asked the question, was he deliberately doing it or was it an accidental one? All that happened.
I have one last question, sir, and this is a bit naive in its the way I'm going to ask. There is a very popular smartphone, and it is believed or rumored that as they manufacture advanced models of smartphones, in order to attract attention for picking up sales for the newer models, through their updates, they send such updates which weaken the functionalities of the older models, battery of the older models so that they drop that and come quickly to purchase new models. Is this business model part of cyber crime? That's why I said it's a naive question.
If you ask me whether this will come under the definition of cybercrime, the answer is I don't know. Because as I mentioned, we are still grappling with one common definition of cybercrime. I don't have one. I said every law has a different. In fact, in the same country, there are more than one definition of cybercrime and different statutes. So, is it cybercrime or not? I don't know. I think we have to look at that answer based on which jurisdiction are in, what is the definition there. But this might get challenged as an unethical business practice. Will it be cybercrime? I honestly don't know.
Is it happening according to you, sir?
It is happening.
It is happening.
I have no doubt on that part of it.
Oh, yes. I have asked this question and I'm going back scared again. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Unfortunate, Mr. Rao, it is actually happening. I can't tell you no.
True. I get that point. So we have actually asked you lots of questions, and except for repetitive questions, except for those who appeared anonymous in the question box, we have actually touched upon every single person. I mean, this is 100% saturation campaign in terms of picking up the questions. We have completed all, and you have very patiently responded to all these questions. Some of them also repetitive in nature, some of them personal. They have gone through some of these, they have been victims themselves. They've gone through these experiences. Questions relating to organizations and enterprises, questions relating to persons, questions relating to countries at large, questions relating to emerging technologies. One of the things where it blew my mind is that cyber criminals using technologies like AI, RPA. I mean, that's like, yes, when will we catch up was the only question that remained in my mind. And that's when I said it is pretty scary. But yes, I think we need to go through, learn, and probably in the near future, we will have a situation where we would have plateaued and we would have actually retarded the advancement of cyber crimes with the way very fastly we are catching up with anti-cyber crime, so to say, kind of measures and technologies that are going to be in place. On behalf of everyone, I would like to thank you for your patient responses to all these questions. This has been very, very eye-opening. This has been very useful, and this is a topic which has been affecting all of us, and all of us are quite concerned. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and expertise in this 125th leadership conversation, sir. Thank you so much on behalf of all of us.
I enjoyed being with you, Sudhakar Rao and Professor Prasad. I really enjoyed talking to all of you and answering the questions. I appreciate your bringing up this program together, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, sir.
And I also want to make a mention here that the next 2 weeks, we are going to take a break. That is the next Friday and the week after that. We will resume leadership conversation number 126 on November 10th. And we are going to have a very interesting leader coming up. We'll share with you. Till then, you have a great festival coming up, Navratri and Vijayadashmi, Dasara. All of you and your families must have a fantastic celebration. Do enjoy, keep yourself taken care of. There is viral fever that's going on across the country. I think celebration in a measured way, where you can ward yourself off the viral fevers. There's no pun intended, sir. I just said it. The viral fever is also kind of a cyber crime that happens. But yes, I think we should be very, very careful, and we'll come back to you on November 10th. This is the first time we are taking a conscious break owing to my travel, where I'm not going to be available on internet. I'm traveling to Everest Base Camp. This is on a trek. But if it were any other place like Professor Prasad, in spite of being in the luxury lap of Shimla, he is able to connect with us. But in Mount Everest, I don't think there is internet possible. So we are taking a break. Thank you all for your patient attendance and coming back week after week. We would love to see you on November 10th and we'll stay connected. Happy Dasara and good night.